Welcome to the RYM Student Podcast, helping you fit God's truth into your life. Reflecting on biblical truth is vital for the life of the believer. We hope this podcast will encourage you in your walk with Jesus. The following was recorded at one of Reformed Youth Ministries conferences. The audio might not be clear, but the message is. We hope you enjoy it.
It's been said that the gospel is not the A through C or the A, B, and C's of Christianity. It's the A through Z of Christianity. The gospel is about reaching into every nook and cranny of our lives. It's about reaching the unreached people groups of our hearts. It's about going to those places for sure. It's a mystery that I want us to explore. And in our text that I'm going to read, Paul is writing about his own struggles. And we're going to use that as kind of our text to talk about this, to talk about the struggle of change. As we dig in, what I want to do is I want to talk about really how Paul struggled with growth. The first thing I want to see is that the struggle for change is real. Do you see that right there in the text? Actually, you saw me tripping over my words because it's an interesting read. It's almost like a mind-twisting read when you start to read Paul on that section. You know, I've actually heard people describe this passage right here that we just read here in chapter 7 as Paul's kind of Dr. Seuss section of his writing. It's something like, I am Sam, right? I mean, this struggle for change is real, and it feels crazy. Paul says this, "For I do not understand my own actions." Now, what's going on here? Paul has come face to face with his own effort to change himself, to be like Christ. You know, early in Romans, he actually makes an admission. He says, I didn't really know the extent of my sin until I read the law that said, do not covet. Remember that part in the beginning of Romans. If you don't, you can go back and read that. And he just said, when I saw that, all of a sudden that sin was exposed. It wasn't that he read, do not covet, and then he just started coveting. It was that as he read that, it just exposed more deeper rooted issues that were in his life. If you remember Paul's own story, he was a really religious guy. He outpaced everybody. In Galatians and in Philippians, he even talks about these. I was Jew among Jews. I was ahead of everyone in my class. I was the archetype of what it was to be holy before God. And that was until he got converted. He met Jesus on that road to Damascus. As he is a follower of Christ, he even admits that as he sees the law, as he sees the thing around him, that it leaves him kind of wondering, how I don't understand myself. It's deeper than I imagine. Paul is seeing his heart. He can't escape the struggle. His heart's struggling. So what does it do to him? It does something fascinating. It brings him to an end of himself. It kind of pushes him to the ledge where he kind of says, I just can't do this anymore. I've got to be rescued. Have you ever been back to a ledge and need to be rescued? It happens here all the time in Colorado. All the time. Someone cliffs out, and then search and rescue have got to come. And they've got to be roped down to harness this person in and save them. There's a sense at which when we even look at our own struggle with sin, it's kind of cliffing out. It's getting to that point where you're like, I'm toast. I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know what to do. And the struggle's real. For Paul, it took him to an end of himself. That's really what he was saying in this text. We see that Paul sees that he's kind of coming to an end of himself, of what he can do, humanly speaking, with his own struggles. He realizes that he's powerless by his own effort to save himself. Here's the question. Where do your struggles lead you? Does it lead you to an end of yourself? Or do you just ignore it? Do you just push it off to the side? Do you find yourself just kind of down because you're like, there's no hope? Do you know that that you can come to an end of yourself before you can change. Augustine said this. He talked about gospel change. He talked about being changed in Christ. And this is what he said. He gave a little bit of a formula. The way to Christ is first through humility. Second, through humility. And third, through humility. This is what he said. If humility doesn't precede and accompany and follow every good work we do, if it's not before us to focus on, if it's not beside us to lean on, if it's not behind us to fence us in, he said this, pride will wrench from our hand any good deed we do at the moment that we do it. Pride and arrogance.
For more information on RYM student conferences, visit rym.org/conferences.